James, there's this proverb that says, as a man thinketh, so is a man. And we look at this and we say, our thoughts become our behaviors become our habits become our character, and our character becomes our destiny. And we've constantly spoken about we are where we are because we choose to be. We constantly talk about that because at Orange World Services, we truly believe in free choice. We also believe that we create our own destinies. We create where we are. So where we're at is because of our thought patterns. So today we're going to be talking about that, James.
Well, good. I got lost about somewhere along the line on thinketh, and I think I started lost at the beginning. So let's start the thoughts.
Oh, okay.
How are thoughts powerful?
Did you not just hear what I said? Okay. So how is our thoughts powerful? We are two main things that defines us, that sets us apart, is our mind and our hearts. And everything that we experience, we experience our lives through our hearts, through the lens that we look at. That's our experience. So we also, because of our experiences, because of how we are experiencing life, we develop this thought pattern. And so if you've noticed, if you get out of bed in the morning, and this is a really good thing, if you get out of bed in the morning and you are in a bad mood because you are just saying today in your thoughts, you're thinking today is a bad day. If you actually would stop and pay attention, everything goes wrong. Everything goes wrong. Why? Because your thoughts, you've already set yourself up for that. We talk about when we say we can't do something, then you're right, you can't do something. How does this work? When you say I can't do something, you're actually saying your thought process, I won't even try. So if you don't try, you're never going to succeed. So when you tell yourself you can't do something, you're right, you can't. That's how our thoughts work. Our thought process, if we basically bring negativity, we probably have all experienced when we're around somebody, there's some people that just, their lens in life and in the EQ profile would say that they're negative oriented. What does that mean? They see all the risk. So let's just talk about when we come up with these great ideas, right? And we're around these kind of people that see all the risks. They're great to have. They're great to have. They can be a great asset, but they can also be a tremendous amount of hindrance. Why? Because when you're giving this idea, you're just throwing this idea out there. These people are going to tell you all the risks of why, all the reasons of why that idea doesn't work. And so the next thing you're like, your whole energy is zapped from you. You're just like, so they're good to have with you because they can keep you in check with reality. But thinking negatively, when our thoughts are negative and we look for all the risk, we're going to see all the risk. But when we start looking for opportunities, the other orientation is opportunities. It's a positive orientation. That is people who see all the opportunities. When we train ourselves, and we can train our mind. Our minds are like computers. What comes in comes out, right? Just exactly like computers. So when we start thinking, we are finding ourselves in our thought patterns. If we're looking at life from a negative thought patterns, all the risks, we're going to start seeing our behavior matches that thought pattern. And as our behavior becomes that way, our habits are the same way, which then becomes our character and becomes our destiny. So when we are where we're at and we take an assessment, we take an inventory of where we're at, and we don't like what we see, our first start is to change our thinking. Change our thinking. We only use 10% of our mind. Think about that. That's 90% of our mind that is yet to be explored. But we can actually, there's a principle of sharpening your axe, which is your mind. How do you sharpen your axe? Again, what goes in comes out, right? So if I want to take an actual thinking, start thinking positive, looking for the opportunities, I'm going to have to start feeding my mind positive opportunities, how to look at them, how to see them, so that I can train my mind so I can start thinking positive. And as I start thinking for the opportunities, I'm going to come with the solutions versus the problems. I'm going to start seeing everything shift.
So I have a number of questions. So when we talked a little bit about when you said negative orientation, now is that inherited in your personality, or are we negative because we had a number of dreams that continue to broken dreams? So
James, I don't believe it's your personality. Okay. I believe, because I'm talking about, we all have the ability to change our thought patterns.
So it's based upon our experiences that we look through.
Exactly.
Not necessarily we're just negative nanny, so to speak.
Exactly.
It's a character. It's not necessarily a character flaw.
It can become a character flaw because, again, our thoughts become our behavior. Our behavior becomes our habits, and our habits become our character.
So
it can become your character, but it's again, you can change.
It doesn't start with a character flaw.
No, think about this, okay? When we are born as babies, we don't see any risk at all. We don't see any risk. We don't, as a baby.
All we see is opportunity.
All we see is opportunity. We come into this world with tremendous amount of curiosity, and we want to see all the opportunities. We want to experience, okay? Have you ever seen a baby go over to a stairway and say, whoa, I better not crawl that. I mean, I could fall.
Very good
and
point.
if I fall, I could split open my head. Oh my gosh. No, a baby's going to see a stairway and say, hey, let's check this out. And they're going to climb up. Now, if a baby falls down those stairs and hits its head, that's where you learn the risk, right? Mm-hmm. So the baby is not going to be as anxious and as excited to climb those stairs again. Mm-hmm. So no, going back to what you're talking about, were we born with negativity? No. We were born with a curiosity. We were born with an opportunity. The whole world's in front of us, and it's our opportunity to explore it. Through our experiences, through our life experiences, we have become, again, negative orientation and positive orientation is the lens in what you see through. The lens in what you see through is in your heart. But it all comes, your heart, out of the heart flows the man, right? So we are directed, our thoughts and everything are directed from the heart. But we have to change that pattern, that thinking pattern in our mind. As it comes into our mind and we start making this into our behaviors, into our habits, it becomes our character. What is our character? Our character becomes into our heart. The more experiences you have, the more negative experiences you have, the more bad experiences you have.
Or are they realistic?
You learn, are they realistic, or are they more of the fact that you go more into a protection, a self-protection? A baby doesn't protect themselves. If you look at a baby, they don't protect themselves. They don't think to protect themselves. As you start putting yourself into, as you start growing older, as you start experiencing life, you're going to have, again, you're going to touch the stove. The stove is hot, so now you're going to protect yourself. As you continue to do this, you continue to build walls around your heart, protections around your heart, which then affects your lens. It affects the way you look at life. You're going to start looking at life as the cup is half full versus the cup is refillable. So when it says that, and it really goes to the fact that, okay, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Well, James, that would actually not be true in your situation.
Yeah, there's a lot of discipline that we talked about that we're also going to go into. When you have broken dreams, it can make you. It can't define you. The broken dreams can't define you. Well, how does that do that?
With your thoughts.
You become thinking cynical thoughts. You think, why do I even want to try it again?
That's exactly what I'm saying, which
Yeah.
then leads you to your destination of where you're at. Your thoughts got you to where you're at. Whether good or bad, your thoughts got you to where you're at. So when you have shattered dreams and you're just like, what's the use? Okay. Well, you can go down that path.
You can pick up a mindset.
You can go down that path. You can stay at that path, but then you wouldn't be listening to this podcast because you wouldn't want to fill yourself. If that's who you are, you wouldn't want to be growing. You don't want to change because you have already accepted that. So what we're talking about is the people that you're not happy with where you're at. You're not satisfied with where you're at. You want more. That's what we're talking about. You've experienced shattered dreams. You've experienced lost relationships. You've experienced life sucks. You've experienced all that. But you're saying, so you're asking, okay, I'm not happy where I'm at, but how do I get from point A to point B? What we're talking about in this podcast is your thoughts. Your thoughts is what got you to where you're at, and your thoughts is what's going to get you from point A to point B. And so if you really want to change your direction of life, again, you always have the chance. Your story doesn't have to end where it's at today. We talked about that too. Your story does not have to end where it's at today. You can change your story. How you change your story is through your thoughts.
So, in one point, a person could be sitting out there with shattered dreams, and this podcast can be received positive thinking. And at the end of the day, when you look at your shattered dreams, positive thinking is not going to get to that. But when I think of positive thinking, it's not going to fix my problem. I'm really focused on the shattered dreams. And what does that mean? It's hard to come to an acceptance of what happened.
James, define to me what you talk about positive dreams. Define to me what you're saying.
Positive thinking.
Right. Okay, positive thinking.
Yeah.
Define to me what are you saying?
Positive thinking was hugely back then, a way of, again, the cup half full. Just look at the cup half full. Just think positive. That'll cover a multitude. All you got to do in the morning, think positive. Mind control. It's all good. It's.
That's not at all what we're talking about because what you're doing.
That's what I'm saying. A person that can hear if you.
I'm glad you brought that up
yes.
because that's not at all what we're talking about. Because James, that's actually the same thought pattern. If you're out there thinking that this is a positive thinking, exactly what you described,
which can lead to denial.
No, it's the same thought pattern that got you to where you're at. That's not what we're talking about. You are still on that same thought pattern. You're just now going to say, okay.
It's all good.
That's exactly what I'm saying. You're saying.
It's denial.
Right. But what I'm saying is you're on the same thought pattern. I'm saying you need to change your thought pattern. It's not positive or negative thought pattern. That's what I'm saying. If you're defining this as a positive thought pattern, you have missed what I'm saying. What I'm saying is your thought pattern, how you think, how a man thinketh is how a man is. So how you thought is what got you where you're at. That's the same. So you're in the same thought pattern. Okay. What I mean by that is you're thinking to yourself that you're negative. You're negative. So now I got to change because your thoughts are negative. Yeah. If you're hearing this and you're saying, what I'm telling you is a positive think, you're on the same path. You're going to be on the same path because you're hearing you were thinking negative and now you're going to just change that and think positive. You're not going to go anywhere. What I'm talking about is changing your thinking pattern. It's not all good. I'm talking about instead of looking at your shattered dreams of woe is me.
Which would be a negative thinking.
Exactly. Woe is me. I'm never going to get myself back up. I'm never going to do this again and say, well, I'm going to switch this to now I'm going to think positive. It's all good. It's all good. You're on the same thought pattern. What I'm talking about changing your thought patterns is looking at what got you to where you're at. What were you thinking when you got to where you're at? What were the thoughts? What was your purpose? What was your motive? What was your attitude? Attitude is huge. And attitude is defined as your perspective. Your perspective is also how you think. So when you're going to change your thought patterns, you're going to say, what was the thoughts that got me to where I'm at?
Well, okay, and I can hear that. And you're talking about thinking. What about circumstances that got me to where I'm at? Because those are powerful too.
Again, we've said it before, and we're going to say it again. Your circumstances do not define you. Your responses to your circumstances define you. You have no control over your circumstances. You have a whole control over your responses to your circumstances. And so if your thought pattern is, okay, well, I'm just going to start looking at everything positive, okay, you've missed the point. Instead, you're looking at this here and saying, what am I learning today? It's learning to step back. And one of the things that you learned really clearly, James, one of the huge steps that you learn in your thought process is that you need the time for overnight processing. Mm-hmm. You can't have things coming at you 90 miles an hour and you want to make decisions so fast. You need time for overnight processing. That's your thought pattern changing. Mm-hmm. That's allowing yourself to step back and really think this through.
So a number of things, what I'm hearing is two things. One, you're taking a personal responsibility.
Very much so. Exactly.
Number two, you're also doing a discipline of your mind. You're taking an active control over your mind.
You are. You are taking actively control over your thoughts. Your thoughts aren't running all random. Your thoughts aren't going all out there. Because again, when your thoughts are going all out there, then your behavior is going to go right behind it. So when you actually have shattered dreams, you're going to stop and you're going to look at the whole situation. Feel the emotions. We continue to say our emotions give us information. Feel the emotions. Embrace the emotions. Really feel the pain of the shattered dream. Instead of brushing yourself off and saying, "Oh, I'm gonna start thinking positive." You have missed the thoughts. You have missed how we change our thought patterns. First thing, we embrace the emotions because our emotions give us information. We embrace the emotions. We look at what have we learned. What have we learned? Instead of woe is me, what have I learned? There is that fact of where we it's a really fine line of where we talk about positive thinking and looking at the opportunities of what have we learned versus woe is me.
So, there is a saying out there called stinking thinking. What we talk a lot about is using our thinker.
Yes, we do.
Stinking thinking probably doesn't take a lot of energy to do. Where when you use your thinker for what it's used for, there's a tremendous amount of discipline. And the word is still keeping coming back to me, discipline. Mm. You're disciplining your mind.
You're disciplining.
Then you're following with your actions.
Yes. You're disciplining your mind.
But sometimes for me, I used to always say, we tend to discipline our actions, and sometimes our actions are too late. We try to cover them up. But if we start with disciplining our mind, then our actions will follow.
Exactly. We want to go into behavior management, right?
There you go.
Behavior management is only the surface. It's not the root. And if you're constantly getting the surface, if you're weeding a garden, if you constantly start if you chop those weeds off, they're going to grow back. That's what behavior management is, just chopping the weeds off, cutting it off at the top. But they're going to continue to grow back. Well, we're talking about disciplining and conquering your thoughts, controlling your thoughts, analyzing your thoughts, taking your thoughts. They are not a weapon.
In captivity.
In captivity, exactly. Then you're getting to the root of your behavior. Because when you get your thoughts, your behavior is going to follow.
Because I used to always say through that time, look at my actions. Don't judge my thoughts.
Exactly.
And that's behavior management.
And I would
Let me show you what go ahead.
And I would always tell you, Yes, you might not have acted on it yet, but as you continue to think this, you're going to. So I would always tell you, I'm going to, as you're thinking, I'm going to shut it down, because that's not the direction you want to go. That's not what you want out of life. Again, you get, when you think, that's what you get out of life. So when you start conquering your thoughts and you start taking them into capture, submissive to yourself, then you're going to be able to be more aware of how you are creating your destiny, which also would basically be self-awareness. You become more self-aware. But you really have to think, in order to change your thought process, in order to change your thought pattern, your thinking pattern, you also have to be aware of what your thinking pattern is. And when we say, well, I don't know, we may look at ourselves as being a very positive person, as being an opportunist. We may look at ourselves as that, but start listening to the words that come out of your mouth.
Well, and you talked about a number of things, and really the battle is in the mind, so to speak.
It is.
The first step, though, I think that we always talk about is why we can't get to that rationale part of our brain is because our emotions, we're not listening to what our emotions are telling us.
Exactly.
We're clouded with our emotions, our own lens of pain. And again, let's go back to the shattered dreams. Mm-hmm. That's a lot of emotion.
That's a tremendous amount of emotion.
There's again, one of the emotions is sadness. So there's a tremendous amount of loss. Mm-hmm. So we're feeling a tremendous amount of loss. So if we don't,
could also feel a tremendous amount of anger.
Yeah, if there's betrayal
and anger
involved,
is violation.
Yeah.
We've been we're sitting here and we're experiencing a great loss, and we have been tremendously violated. So what's the first thing we want to do? Someone's got to pay.
Somebody's got to pay. So, and exactly my example is there's tremendous amount of emotions that need to look at. Mm-hmm. I hate the word resolved, but it's almost there's some resolution needs to happen emotionally.
There really is, and that's how you get, because we always use the word closure. I'm talking about in general,
and that's why
when a situation happens, we always want closure, but we're always expecting the closure to come from, perhaps if we've been betrayed, we want to have closure. We're always expecting the closure to come from the very person who betrayed us.
Right. And that's why when I use the word resolution or reconcile, it's not for closure. It's the kind of...
It is for closure.
It is.
It's for ourselves.
But it's not the closure that's going to make you feel okay. And reconcile means we got to either make the person happy with us or somebody's got to pay. But a resolution is our personal resolution, our personal reconciliation.
We reconcile ourselves.
That's
what I'm saying. We reconcile ourselves.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is that, again, this is what I'm saying about our circumstances. Shattered dreams can define us, and we're forever going to be doomed, and we're never going to. So what happened is we are going to have to think. Our thought process got us to where we're at. Personal responsibility, personal accountability. We're going to have to think through all this, but we're going to have to analyze and actually allow ourselves to feel our emotions so that we can reconcile for ourselves.
Yes.
We get our closure through ourselves.
And it's not because the person gets what they deserved.
No. And when we do that,
or we get what we deserve, so to speak.
Right. When we do that, the other person or peoples have nothing to do with us, and our circumstances don't control us. Again, we can't control our circumstances, but we can control our responses. That's where the power comes. And our responses is through our thoughts.
So what I'm hearing is there's two key things. The two disciplines that I'm also hearing is, one, reconcile your emotions. Hear what your emotions are saying and feel them. That's the first
Allow
thing.
yourself to feel your emotions.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. What do they embrace them as your ally? Feel those. Second one is, what are we going to do with those? What are they telling us? What's the response? So we hear what the emotions said. Now, what's the path forward?
Conquer our thoughts.
Yes. We now we're no longer feeling. We know what we felt. Now the discipline is taking your thoughts into captivity.
Exactly.
Because if let's say, let's go back to a one way we can go. We talk about anger as a violation. Okay. So again, that person's got to pay. So a thought could be revenge, could be a seed. I'm going to make that person pay.
Yes.
That's a thought. Is that a proper way to go?
There's no right and wrong, James.
That's what I'm going to say.
There's no right and wrong. It's just the choice. This is where free choice comes in.
Okay.
There's no right and wrong.
Yeah.
It comes down to what do you
that?
want? What do you want from your outcome?
Oh.
Because you can think revenge.
Yeah,
you can.
And I have the right. I have every right to what the person does to get revenge based upon my thought.
Right.
Now that I feel it, I feel anger. So anger, eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, right? So that's my thought.
But you can go down that path. You can go down that path of revenge. Okay. And yes, you're going to take on that thought. That thought comes in. You don't get that thought in captive. You don't bring it captive to yourself.
Or you entertain it.
But that's what you do. If you don't you don't bring it in captive, you're entertaining it. Right. And so it'll fester and it'll fester. And you're trying to go over here. You're saying, well, at least my behavior isn't out there. At least my behavior isn't out there. So it's festering, but you can't get past this shattered dream.
That's
Everything,
right. I'm gonna take it back.
Every job that you go, or okay, so say it's in a career. Let's just say the shattered dreams in a career. So someone's going to pay. That's the thought.
They got
okay.
me fired. Yes.
Right. That's the thought. Someone's going to pay, but you're not going to, that's not who you are in your mind. That's not who you are, but that's a thought. You're not taking that thought into captivity and you're not squashing that thought. It's festering. You're entertaining it. So how this works is that thought goes into your subconscious. But consciously, you're moving forward. You believe you're moving forward. You're going you get another job. You get a new job. Okay. This is a job maybe similar to your old job, but everything is going great. And then boom, the boss says something that sounds just like this other person who got you fired. And you go off the handle. And guess what? You lose your job. Now, your second job. Now you have 2 fires on your resume. And you're going to continue to go on this downward spiral. And you're going to say, it's this other person's fault. If this person hadn't got me fired, it's that person's fault. Guess what? That person is not living your life. That person is not living your life because you won't let go of that thought of revenge. You won't let go. And so all your energy is going toward that thought of revenge. But you're trying to move forward. Your behavior is moving forward because you have to bring in an income. But every single job you're getting fired. Why? Because that thought becomes behavior, because it becomes a trigger. And you become a ticking bomb. So what happens? You become a ticking bomb. And the next thing you know, you got fired. That was one thing. But the next thing you know, you wake up and you could be homeless. You could no longer, you could be living in your vehicle. You couldn't be finding a job. Why? Because on your resume, you haven't been at a job very long. Because you won't let go. And if you go back to that thing of why are you where you're at? As a man thinketh, so is he. That thought of revenge. So you have a choice. So you can bring that thought of revenge into capture and you can squash it and say, no, I'm not going to think that at all. I got fired. I did this. Very empowering. I did this. I got fired. What did I learn from this? And how can I move forward?
So what I'm hearing here, Nancy, is you're bringing the thoughts into captivity on 2 things. One, who am I? Mm-hmm. Based on who I am spiritually.
Yes.
Who the person I am.
Exactly.
What is my values? That's who I am.
Exactly.
Am I a revengeful person?
Exactly.
So I have to take that thought, the feeling, and then take the thought into captivity. Is that who I am? First of all, I ask myself the question. Am I a revengeful person?
Yep.
Am I capable of revenge?
Oh, I believe we're all capable of it.
Okay.
We're all capable of it. James, it's the fact we're all capable of it. But the truth of it is, do I want to go down that path? I'm making a choice.
Right.
Do I want to go down that path of revenge and possibly be able to get my revenge on the person? Again, that's not a given thing, right? Or do I want to take responsibility and squash that and be intentional of moving forward? And all my thoughts are going to go to moving forward. I'm going to say, what did I learn? What was I missing?
Yeah.
And I'm going to find out the information that I was missing so that I can move forward into my new chapter. Because if I'm going down the path of revenge, every day that I'm thinking on revenge is another day that person stole from me.
Right. So, very important to know as you hit the feelings, who am I?
Yes.
And the second one I heard really important, and this is what I heard really clearly. What are my expected outcomes?
Yes, exactly.
And another way of saying that is what we talk a lot about is what is my purpose based on who I am. But I'm breaking it down to when we're thinking, what are my expected outcomes? What's important? Again, that's what you said. What is my next chapter?
Who do I want to be known as?
Yeah.
Do I want to be known as a revengeful person, or do I want to be known as a person who moves forward?
Yeah, exactly.
That would be the purpose.
Well, the purpose is based on who I am. Then comes the purpose is the action. The purpose is the moving forward.
Exactly.
We have to have the purpose based on who we are.
Well,
we have to
James,
know who we are.
Your purpose could also be revenge. And you're going to move forward in that direction as well.
That's
what I'm saying.
But it's still important to have purpose.
Your purpose is really, the outcome is really, who do I want to be?
Right.
Who do I want to be known as?
And if you want to go that path of revenge, you have to own it. And that's your expected outcome.
Again, I talk about choice. That's a choice.
Yeah. But I think a lot of times we would not be the people we are if we actually looked at both of those. Is that who or we're nilly-willy? Are we a person of revenge, or are we a person of healing?
That's where emotional intelligence comes in. When we lack emotional intelligence, we are going to make a choice to walk down the path of revenge because somebody's got to pay. Because we are driven by our emotions. And then that's why I'm saying we wake up and we're homeless and we're living in a car and we're asking, how did I get here? And then someone's got to pay for that. And it's a vicious cycle. It's exhausting.
You know where you're going based upon this.
With emotional intelligence, you know where you're going because you're being intentional on your thoughts. You're being intentional and you're being aware of your thoughts. You're being intentional on listening to your emotions, and you're being intentional on your choices. Again, to not make a choice is to make a choice. We make choices every day. Whether we make them intentional or not intentional, we make choices. So emotional intelligence, that's what we're describing. Emotional intelligence is actually bringing your emotions in captivity, your thoughts in captivity, so that every single thing that happens to you is a turning point.
Yes.
It's a choice, a turning point. If I actually embrace every single thing that happened to me and I take my thoughts into I'm not going to ask myself, how did I get here 5 years from now? I'm going to know how I got here. So it really comes down, and that's the purpose, James. That's exactly the purpose. Who do you want to be known as?
Yeah, what's your dash?
What is your dash? Who do you want to be known as? And where are you going? Because if you're going down this path that you want to make an impact, you want to make a difference in your world, revenge doesn't fit in there. It really doesn't. So it's not, again, we're not talking about right or wrong. We're talking about what is your dash and what do you want to be known as? And what exactly what's your destiny? What's your goal? What's your end goal in mind? That's how you're going to get your thoughts into captivity, your emotions into submission, and you're going to be making decisions on the direction you want to go. So 5 years from now, 10 years from now, you're not going to ask yourself, how did I get here? You're going to know how you got here, which takes tremendous amount of discipline.
That's where I was going. You talked a lot about discipline.
Yeah.
I think, and you said something earlier today, it's easy to be undisciplined.
Yes.
Some people say it's really hard to live paycheck to paycheck. Mm-hmm. You say it's easy to be undisciplined.
It is.
It's not harder.
No.
When you describe this path, this is extremely hard.
It is. It's very intentional. It's very focused. It's very purpose. It's very purpose driven. That's where the purpose would come in.
There's a lot of discipline.
It's very purpose driven. And so again, it is because, and what discipline is doing the things you don't want to do to get the results you want. So yes, it is very disciplined. So we don't want to, that's why I'm saying living an undisciplined life is very easy. Why? Because we can do whatever we want to do, but you're not going to get the results you want. So you have to ask yourself, what are the results I want? Discipline is doing the things you don't want to do so that you get the results you want.
Yeah. This really talks discipline. Yeah. It's a disciplined life. Mm-hmm. It takes a lot of work. The results, the outcomes are going to definitely be different.
Yes, it is.
When you started this. Again, we also talk about the definition of sanity is
doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. And that's exactly what happens if we're driven by our emotions and we're driven by our thoughts and we don't have our thoughts in captivity. Because again, how do we avoid insanity? We change our thinking process.
And going back to the positive thinking, this is way beyond positive thinking because the two elements of this whole podcast are two words that really come to mind is discipline and acceptance. Mm-hmm. And there's one more, personal responsibility.
Yes.
Actually, there's total 4 words I just said. That is crucial.
Very much so.
Any other things we want to talk about today, Nancy?
No, James, I'm extremely excited.
All right. Email us at orangeroseservices.com. Excuse me. Email James at orangeservice. And boy, we need some discipline in here on this mic.
Yeah.
Let's do it again. Email me at James at orangeroseservices.com. Also, check out our webpage, orangeroseservices.com, and have a fantastic week.